Hey everybody, and welcome back to another book review. I finished a book that is the second book in a series that isn't 100% a series, and that is Warrior Girl Unearthed by Angeline Boulley. It is the sort of sequel to Firekeeper's Daughter, which I read several months ago. And so in this story, we're continuing on with the same family. In Firekeeper's Daughter, the main character Donis, she has two younger cousins who she actually calls like her nieces because she's so much older than them. And so Warrior Girl and Earth is about one of those nieces, Perry, whose real name is Pearl Mary, so they just call her Perry. But in this story, Perry is older. She is about 16, 17. And she it's really a true coming of age story. So I feel like Firekeeper's Daughter, it was a coming of age story, but there were elements of it that felt a lot more like adult fiction. Just in some of the challenges that Donis had to face, where this one really felt more like a teen coming of age story. This one also, while it wasn't as harsh as the first one, still did have a good twist with it in terms of plot, which I really liked. And I think I said this with Firekeeper's Daughter, but like that book like made me so angry I threw it. This one was pretty darn close, and it was just because it was adding more layers to the first book. And truthfully, and I think I saw this a couple places online as well, that you can read the book separate and like not in any particular order. And I think that is true because you do kind of get some backstory elements that are put in, but at the same time, I just really feel like it's very important to read Firekeeper's Daughter first before you read Warrior Girl Unearthed. So Warrior Girl Unearthed, again, it's about Perry, and Perry and her sister Pauline, they are in a summer internship program that is part of kind of like their tribal experience. And so the internship program includes high school students, and it includes college students. So a wide mix of ages in there. And they just work in different locations around their town / reservation. And so Perry kind of struggles. So at first she gets placed with the tribal museum, and she thinks that everything is going very well until she starts to have feelings about some of the laws that are being passed. So in this book, the biggest law is NAGPRA, which is a repatriation act that was passed in 1990, I believe. And it's basically a law that says that if museums or colleges, universities, institutions, things like that have items, specifically items that are burial based, so like bones that have been taken and dug up out of graves, burial sites, whether they were designated burial sites or not, they are to be returned to the various tribes. And the tribes can, of course, put claims on them. After this law is passed, the rules are stated that people are not supposed to just go dig up any of these areas and take those bones and then, either put them on display or to sell them or whatever. And it's not just bones. There's other things, obviously, that go inside of different burial sites. You have moccasins, you have bits of clothing, tools. This book talks about a turtle shell shaker and a pipe. And then one of the other big ones is ash baskets, which are very big with this tribe, the Ojibwe tribe, and specifically for Perry and her family, because her grandmother used to weave those baskets and had a very distinct signature on her baskets. And so Perry is visiting with a professor, and she sees one of these baskets, and she's she doesn't know what the basket is or who made it, but it kind of, brings up some memories because she's like, these are things that like my grandmother did. And she opens this basket and she finds that there are seeds inside this basket that are heirloom seeds, specifically pumpkin seeds. And she puts the basket back, this particular basket, but she takes some of the seeds out of it. And she doesn't get caught so much right then, but like a week or so later, her boss finds out that she's taken these seeds from the university. And she's like, yeah, but they were our seeds to begin with. They were inside an ash basket. Like, she's trying to justify what action she had. And her boss is like, I hear you and I understand, but there are rules and there are procedures and we have to follow those rules and procedures. And you, like, yes, you feel like you've been vindicated and you're doing justice, but it's caused an issue and I can't trust you to not do that again. So she gets fired for the first internship and she winds up going over to tribal council and working under the sub-chief. And the sub-chief, she, gets along really well with. Things seem to be going really well over there. And then she gets moved again. And so basically all summer, she keeps getting moved several times. And she doesn't understand why she keeps getting moved. And there's a bigger reason later in the book. But in all of this, you also hear about her friends, like lifelong friends. You hear about new friends with, of course, a little bit of love story with a boyfriend and everything. And then you also get some updates about things from the first book, Firekeeper's Daughter. So one of the main characters in that book was a guy named Stormy Noden. He ran around with Perry's uncle. They were really good friends, but when the uncle got arrested, Stormy completely went nonverbal, wouldn't talk to anybody, and now he pretty much only speaks in the Ojibwe language. And so there's a lot about him kind of focusing on him kind of being more of the medicine man of the tribe now, and such. So there's a lot of just really awesome tribal knowledge in there. The first book had a lot of tribal knowledge. This one has even more. And it was just really interesting to hear. It was also interesting to learn about NAGPRA. And honestly, from a reader perspective, because I'm such a history nerd, this is a perfect book for me because it's, a novel. It has the fictionalized story to it, but it also has a lot of information that, are things that most normal people don't necessarily know about. And so that was very interesting to read and learn about. I did a little bit of extra research on these things. And then also this book partially has, some stories that is more local to me. So the book, of course, takes place in Michigan, Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, up in the UP. But there are several quotes in this book from Indiana, because there was a man in Indiana who had dug up graves and taken things from various locations that he shouldn't have taken after NAGPRA was passed. And the FBI raided his house and repatriated those items. And so that was interesting because I don't remember ever hearing about it. The book takes place in 2014. And this supposedly happened in 2013, 2014, which I've lived in Indiana my entire life. And I was like, I don't remember ever hearing about this. And I just think it's kind of wild because I do work in a museum. And so I'm surprised I didn't hear about it. But it was kind of cool to hear about that and kind of dig a little bit on that. And then there was also, like I said, some justice and some vindication in part of the book as well, from the first book. So as I mentioned in the first book, there was such an upsetting law and piece that was added, in which the main character, Donis, she is assaulted and she can't prosecute it, right? And the guy that assaulted her is still kind of running around being all smug, still preying on various people, specifically women who play hockey. And in the second book, he is murdered. And I was like, yeah, good on him. Just because you in the first book, you're just like, oh my gosh, what do you mean she can't do anything about it? And this time it was just like, yes, there's a little vindication there. So yeah, there's a lot in this book. Like I said, it's a really good book though. 5 out of 5 for me, both because of the story and also just because of the history and learning about laws and everything, just giving me more to look up. Just really enjoying Angeline Boulley. I also love her mixture of language, and the idea that, not really the idea, but the fact that a lot of folks that are still very in tune with their tribes do speak their tribal languages. And just to have that written, and even from the audiobook, I audiobooked this one because of the language. And it's just so lovely to hear those things, especially when people are fluent in those languages. So it's wonderful to have that still very much be a part of the culture of the United States. So yeah, like I said, 5 out of 5. Absolutely 100% recommend. There's a third book that supposedly doesn't connect as much to the first 2 books. So I will be hunting that one down and reading that one as well at some point. But yeah, like I highly suggest, especially if you're a person that's into, you know, a little bit of history, like dive into this book, into these series. Warrior Girl Unearthed. Just really, really good. Really, really good book. Love, 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 love. So yeah, there you have it. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe if you so choose. Thank you as always for sticking around and listening to all the book reviews. And I look forward to seeing you in the next book review. Bye!